Here's a full, emotional story draft for your YouTube video, written in plain long paragraphs, cinematic style, with the 2 engagement requests placed naturally. Story. The night was thick with silence, broken only by the restless cries of a baby echoing through the narrow alley behind a small neighborhood diner. Inside, a man stood over a steaming pot, stirring slowly, his tired eyes glancing toward the door as if waiting for something, or someone. That man was Daniel, a single dad who had built his entire world around his little daughter after tragedy struck and his wife walked away from their lives. The diner wasn't just his job, it was his sanctuary, his only way of keeping food on the table and love stitched tightly around the edges of his daughter's broken childhood. But that night, fate would lead him into an encounter that would change not only his story, but the story of someone he never thought he would meet. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love in the unlikeliest places, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Pulse. Your support helps us keep telling stories that heal and inspire hearts all around the world. The story began when Daniel was finishing the last order of the night. His apron was stained with flour, his hands red from washing dishes, and exhaustion pressed heavily on his shoulders. He was about to close the diner when a soft whimper grew louder outside. Curious, he stepped out and saw a young nanny cradling a crying baby in the cold air. The child's face was wet with tears, tiny fists clenching in hunger and discomfort. The nanny, panicked and overwhelmed, confessed that the baby hadn't eaten properly all day. She had tried everything but nothing worked. Daniel's eyes softened instantly. He knew the sound of a hungry baby, it mirrored the nights when his own daughter would cry, and he had stayed awake mixing small meals with recipes he had learned not from books, but from sheer desperation and fatherly instinct. Without hesitation, he invited them inside. The nanny hesitated, then followed, grateful for any help. Daniel moved quickly, as if guided by memory, pulling out fresh ingredients he had left over. He boiled a small pot of vegetables, mashed them into a soft puree, and added a touch of herbs that soothed not only the stomach but the soul. The diner filled with a warm, comforting aroma that seemed to hug the baby before she even took a bite. When the little girl tasted the food, her crying slowed, her eyes softened, and for the first time in hours, she began to eat peacefully. Daniel stood there watching, his heart swelling with a strange mixture of relief and ache. Feeding a hungry child was something he understood all too well, and in that small act, he felt as though he was feeding his own wounds too. What Daniel didn't know was that the baby's mother was not an ordinary woman. She was Victoria Hale, one of the wealthiest women in the city, a billionaire entrepreneur whose name was spoken in boardrooms and headlines. But tonight, she was not in a skyscraper or at a gala, she was rushing through traffic, desperate to reach her daughter after a day filled with endless meetings and decisions. Guilt gnawed at her heart as she realized how little time she had spent with her only child. When she finally walked into the diner, her heels clicking against the old wooden floor, she froze at the sight before her. Her baby was nestled calmly in the arms of a stranger, feeding happily, safe and comforted. The sight pierced Victoria in a way nothing else ever had. She was used to power, wealth, and control, but here she was, watching her child soothed not by her, but by a man she had never met. Tears welled in her eyes as she stepped closer, her voice trembling as she thanked him. Daniel simply nodded, not seeking recognition or praise. He was just glad the baby was no longer in pain. But Victoria, standing there in her elegant dress and expensive jewelry, felt something break inside her. It was not the kind of break that weakens, but the kind that allows light to pour in. Over the next few days, Victoria couldn't shake the memory of that moment. She found herself driving back to the diner, watching Daniel work with quiet patience, his little daughter playing in the corner with toys made from old boxes and scraps of cloth. His life was humble, stripped of luxury, yet filled with a richness she had never known. She began talking to him, learning about his story, how he had been abandoned by the woman he loved, how he raised his daughter alone, and how cooking had become both his survival and his art. Each recipe he made carried emotion, memory, and care. And with each conversation, Victoria felt herself not only admiring his strength but questioning her own life choices. Slowly, a bond began to form. It wasn't a love story in the traditional sense at first, it was a connection born out of gratitude, respect, and the realization that kindness can come from the most unexpected places. Victoria started spending more time at the diner, not as a billionaire, but as a mother, learning from Daniel how to prepare meals that comforted her daughter, meals that carried the tenderness she had forgotten in her chase for success. For the first time in years, she cried not out of frustration, but out of love, because a single dad chef had reminded her what truly mattered. The diner, once a forgotten corner of the street, began to glow with new energy. Word spread about Daniel's recipes that not only filled the stomach but healed the soul. Customers arrived not just for food but for the warmth he created. And quietly, Victoria supported him, not with money thrown carelessly, but with encouragement, partnership, and presence. She discovered that sometimes, the richest moments in life come not from wealth, but from shared humanity and simple acts of care. And so, the story of a single father and a billionaire mother intertwined, two broken lives finding pieces of healing in a bowl of food and the cry of a baby. It was not about riches or status, but about kindness, second chances, and the way love often arrives quietly, disguised as something ordinary yet powerful enough to change everything. If this story touched your heart, if it made you believe in kindness, in unexpected miracles, and in the beauty of second chances, then please like this video, share it with someone you care about, and don't forget to subscribe to Kindness Pulse. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who might need a reminder that hope still exists in this world. Before we end, I have one special request. Please comment below, do you believe that a small act of kindness can truly change a life? I would love to hear your thoughts. Would you like me to expand this draft into a full 4,000-word version with more scenes, like Daniel's struggles as a single dad, Victoria's lonely life as a billionaire, and their gradual emotional transformation, or should I keep it tight and cinematic around 1,500-2,000 words for easier YouTube narration?